I want to start today with a really provocative question. It's the kind of question that might actually make you a little angry when you first hear it.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
It's certainly ruffled my feathers.
Yeah.
So, what if your past simply doesn't determine your future?
Okay.
I know, it sounds like a nice motivational poster, right? A bit cliche. But let's go deeper. What if trauma doesn't have to define you? And here's the really controversial part. What if you are unhappy right now simply because you have chosen to be unhappy?
It is a confronting thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds almost victim blaming at first glance. It definitely raises the hackles.
It does.
But when you really dig into the philosophy behind it, it's actually one of the most empowering perspectives you can possibly adopt. It sort of shifts the weight of the world off your shoulders, strangely enough.
Well, that is the mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the concepts and the absolute phenomenon of a book, The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitaka Koga.
It sold millions of copies.
For a reason. And our source material for this discussion highlights something really interesting right off the bat. In the Turkish edition, which we're referencing, the title was translated as Kendinle Savasma Sanata.
Which means the art of fighting with yourself.
Exactly. Published by Corridor Publishing.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? Because the original title, The Courage to be Disliked, and that one, The Art of Fighting with Yourself, they actually illuminate two different sides of the same coin.
How so?
Well, one is about the external world being disliked by others, and the other is about the internal struggle. And as we'll see, you really can't have one without the other. You have to fight your own instincts to gain that courage.
And the setting of this book is just as unique. It's not a dry textbook or some, 10 steps to happiness list. It's written as a dialogue.
Right, almost like a play. It's set on the edge of a 1,000-year-old city. You have this wise philosopher who believes the world is actually quite simple.
Simple. Yeah, right.
And that happiness is accessible to everyone instantly. And then this young man visits him. And the young man is, well, he's us.
Totally.
He's dissatisfied, he's cynical, he sees the world as this chaotic, unfair mess, and he thinks the philosopher's ideas are basically nonsense.
I think we've all been that young man. Just looking at the world thinking, it's easy for you to say, you don't have my problems.
Absolutely. And the backbone of the philosopher's arguments comes from Alfred Adler. Now, most people know Freud, they know Jung.
Right, the household names.
But Adler is considered the third giant of psychology. And here's the key difference. While Freud and Jung were often looking backward, digging into the past to explain the present, Adler was looking forward. His work is all about how we can change our lives now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the first major takeaway, and probably the biggest hurdle for people to get over, I struggled with it, is this idea of the myth of trauma.
This is the core conflict. And Adlerian psychology takes a radical stance here. It suggests we need to stop believing that our past determines our present. It's this battle between two big concepts, etiology and teleology.
Oh, okay, those are big words. We need to break those down for sure before we lose everyone. What is etiology?
So etiology is the study of causation. It's very Freudian. It's the idea that present unhappiness is caused by past events.
A straight line.
A straight line. I have trust issues because my parents divorced, or I am anxious because I was bullied as a child. In this view, we are just products of our history. Cause and effect.
Which feels true, right? It feels so logical. If I get hit by a car, I have a broken leg. The past event caused the current state.
Physically, yes, of course. But Adler argues that in the psychological realm, we operate on teleology, and that's the study of the purpose of something rather than its cause.
The purpose.
Yes. Adler says we are not determined by our experiences, but by the meaning we give them. We interpret the past to suit our current goals.
Wait. So he's saying if I was bullied, that didn't happen. Or that it shouldn't hurt, because that sounds like you're just gaslighting yourself.
No, not at all. The trauma is real. The event absolutely happened. Adler isn't denying the pain of the past.
Okay.
But he suggests that carrying it as a life sentence is a choice. He argues we don't suffer from the shock of our experiences, the so-called trauma, but instead we make out of them whatever suits our purposes.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
Because if I'm unhappy,
Yeah.
and you're telling me
That you're choosing it.
that I'm choosing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Why would anyone choose to be unhappy who wakes up and says, you know what, I'd like to be miserable today?
That's where it gets really nuanced. The source material talks about the comfort zone, but in a kind of a darker way.
Okay.
Even if you are unhappy or you feel like a victim, the situation you're in is familiar. You know the rules of your unhappiness. You know how to navigate it.
Right. It's the devil you know. If I'm the guy with the bad luck, at least I know who I am.
Exactly. Change implies risk. It implies the unknown. If you decide to change, to stop being the victim, you might fail. You might try to build a business and go bankrupt.
So it's scary.
It's terrifying. So subconsciously, people often decide that it is easier to complain about bad luck than to face the possibility of failure. They choose the unhappiness they know over the fear of the unknown.
So in a way, staying stuck is a form of safety. It's a defense mechanism.
It is. The authors argue that most people who say they want to change actually don't. They want the result of change, they want to be happy, but they don't want to give up the security of their current identity. To change is to kill your old self.
This leads perfectly into the second big message from the book, which is about the lies we tell ourselves to maintain that safety. Specifically, the lie of, I don't have time.
Oh, this is a classic.
I feel like this one is going to hit home for a lot of us. I use this one probably 3 times a day.
Oh, we all do. The book shares this anecdote about a young man who dreams of being a writer. You know, he wants to be the next Stephen King, but he claims he's just too busy with his job.
I feel so called out. I think everyone listening has used that excuse for something. I'd go to the gym, but I'm too busy. I'd learn Spanish, but work is crazy.
Exactly. And the philosopher in the book, he just calls this out immediately. He says, the man isn't actually busy. He's using lack of time as a shield.
A shield against what, though? If he wants to write, why not just write?
He's shielding himself against reality. I mean, think about it. If he actually makes time to write the book and it's terrible, what happens then?
His dream is crushed. He has to face the fact that maybe he isn't a genius after all. He loses the fantasy.
Precisely. His ego is destroyed. But if he never writes it, he can live forever in this comforting possibility of, I could have done it. He can preserve a sense of infinite potential.
That is brutal. We'd rather be a potential genius than a confirmed mediocrity.
Exactly. And this applies to everything. I can't lose weight because of genetics. I can't learn that skill because I'm too old. These are just sophisticated ways of saying, I am too afraid to try and fail.
Wow. Okay, so we've tackled the past and we've tackled our excuses. Now let's talk about other people, because the book makes a very, very bold claim. All problems are interpersonal problems.
Yes. This is the island theory. The philosopher suggests that if you lived alone on a deserted island, the only human being left in the universe, all your psychological problems would just vanish.
All of them, really. I mean, I'd still be cold or hungry or lonely.
You'd have survival problems, sure, but psychological problems, think about it. Status anxiety. Who are you trying to impress? Jealousy. Who are you jealous of? Inferiority. Who are you comparing yourself to?
I guess I wouldn't care if I was wearing designer clothes or rags.
Right. Even your looks. If there's no one to judge you, you stop caring. You wouldn't care if you were rich or poor, famous or unknown. These concepts only exist in contrast to someone else.
So things like money, beauty, success, they only have meaning in comparison to others.
Exactly. And therefore, all our suffering, our feelings of inferiority, our desire for recognition is rooted in interpersonal relationships.
But wait. The source material makes a distinction here between loneliness and solitude. If we are social creatures, isn't being alone a problem in itself?
It depends on how you frame it. The book says loneliness is that sad feeling of being disconnected. It's emphasizing who isn't there. But being alone or solitude can be a state of total happiness if you're at peace with yourself.
Okay.
The book argues you can only have healthy relationships if you're capable of being happy alone. If you need others to validate you, you're in trouble.
That connects to the fatigue we feel. The source mentioned that we aren't usually tired by the work itself. We're tired by the office politics, the competition.
It's the people that tire us out, not the tasks. It's the emotional labor of managing how we are perceived. And Adler gives us a tool to handle this. It's called the separation of tasks.
This is my favorite part of the research, but it's also the part I struggle with the most in practice.
It takes so much work. It's about distinguishing between what is your responsibility and what is someone else's. And the rule of thumb is to ask, who is going to receive the result of this decision?
So let's use the romance example from the source. This one is really common. You're in a relationship, and you're constantly worried your partner might cheat.
Right, you're checking their phone, anxious when they go out.
You feel like you're just protecting the relationship.
Adler would say you are interfering in their task. Whether they cheat or not is their decision. It's their task to manage their fidelity. You cannot control their actions, only your own.
That's hard, though, because their task affects me. If they cheat, I get hurt.
It affects you, yes. but you cannot prevent it. There's an old proverb the book references. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
Adler says you can't force the horse. Your task is to decide what you do if they cheat. Your task is to be a good partner or to leave if trust is broken. But trying to manage their behavior, that's trespassing.
What about the approval example? Seeking validation.
That's a huge one. If you're constantly trying to get someone to like you, your boss, a friend, you're trying to control their thoughts. How they feel about you is their task. It is not your job to be liked. It's their job to decide if they like you.
There was that traffic analogy, too, which I thought was brilliant.
Yes. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You get furious. You start yelling. You think the other driver made you angry. But Adler says no. You chose anger.
Why would I choose anger? It feels like a reflex.
You choose it because it's effective. You choose it to intimidate the other driver, to assert dominance. It's a tool. Emotions are tools we pick up to achieve a goal. But ultimately, their driving is their task. Your reaction is yours. When you separate those tasks, you realize their bad driving has nothing to do with your emotional state unless you let it.
This really sets up the title of the book, doesn't it? The Courage to be Disliked. Because if I stop doing everyone else's tasks, if I stop dancing for their approval, they might not like it.
Exactly. True freedom, according to this philosophy, is the ability to be disliked by others.
That sounds, well, unpleasant. Nobody wants to be disliked. We're wired to belong.
Of course. But the point here is about the cost of approval. If you live your life trying to satisfy everyone's expectations, your parents, your friends, society, you are living their life, not yours.
You become a chameleon.
You do. You suppress your own desires just to avoid the friction of being disliked.
The source mentions the bully popularity paradox here.
Right. Think about school. You have the bullies and you have the people pleasers. Both are actually driven by the same thing, a desperate need for validation. A bully gets it by force, the pleaser gets it by submission. But neither is free. They are both enslaved by the reaction of the crowd.
And this gets really real when we talk about careers. The source used the example of parents forcing children into specific jobs. We see this all the time.
This is a classic separation of tasks issue. Parents think it's their job to decide the child's future. The child thinks it's their job to please the parent.
So what's the advice?
Adlerian advice is harsh but clear. If you choose a path that makes you happy, you must be ready to disappoint your parents. That disappointment is their problem to process, not yours.
That is the price of freedom. Being willing to let them be disappointed? That feels heavy.
It is heavy. But the alternative is living a lie for decades. And here's the liberating realization. People actually don't think about you as much as you think they do.
The spotlight effect, right?
Exactly. You're worried about what everyone thinks of your career change, but they're too busy worrying about what you think of them. We're all walking around obsessed with our own movie, assuming everyone else is an audience member.
So if we stop living for others, and we stop living in the past, how do we actually find happiness? Because just not caring sounds a bit nihilistic.
You're right to ask that. Adlerian psychology isn't about being a hermit or a sociopath, and that's where the final piece comes in. Adler says happiness isn't just freedom from things, it's about what you move toward. And the answer is contribution.
Contribution is happiness.
Yes. The antidote to self-obsession, which is usually the root of misery, is shifting your focus. Unhappy people ask, what do they think of me? Or what can I get? Happy people ask, what can I give?
And the source was careful to say, this doesn't have to be grand. You don't have to cure a disease or stop a war.
No, in fact, those grand goals can sometimes be ego traps too. Look at me. I'm saving the world. Ordinary contributions are enough. Things like helping a child with homework,
Teaching an intern something new at the office.
picking someone up from school, washing the dishes without being asked.
It's that feeling of being useful.
Exactly. Adler calls it community feeling. When you feel useful, you feel you have a place in the universe. You belong. And the beauty is, this sense of contribution eliminates the desperate need for external validation.
How so?
Because if you know you contributed, if you know you helped that intern or supported your family, you don't need them to say, good job.
You have the internal satisfaction.
Exactly. You become self-sufficient in your happiness. You don't need the applause because you know the value of the act itself.
So, to summarize the journey we've been on, we start by abandoning the victim mindset of the past.
Refusing to let trauma define us.
We stop using no time as a shield for our ego.
We separate our tasks from others so we stop carrying their burdens.
We find the courage to be disliked so we can live our own lives.
And finally, We find joy in simply being useful to others. It's a roadmap from being self-centered and fragile to being community-centered and robust.
It's powerful stuff. And honestly, it's not easy. It's simple, but not easy. It feels like rewriting your own operating system.
No, it requires constant practice. That's why the Turkish title, The Art of Fighting with Yourself, is so apt. You are fighting your own instincts to stay safe, to stay comfortable, to blame others. It's a daily battle.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with a final thought to chew on, something that really challenges the way we look at our own complaints.
I would ask you, the listener, to think of the one thing you are most unhappy about right now, the thing you complain about to your friends over drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Now ask yourself this question and be really honest. Is this actually a problem you can't solve? Or is it a choice you are making to stay in your comfort zone?
Are you choosing this unhappiness because the alternative, taking responsibility, making a change, and risking failure, is just too scary?
That is the question.
Are you unhappy because of the world, or because you haven't summoned the courage to be disliked?
It's a question that can change your life if you let it.
Thank you for helping us unpack this incredible philosophy today.
My pleasure. It's a journey worth taking.
And to you, listening, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.